What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Phaithful Phanatics show. We are electric here on a Wednesday morning here on Scotty's Hump Day, getting you guys ready for the Eagles-Packers matchup in Sao Paulo. Just over, 48 hours away right now, Scotty. We're going to break down our official season predictions. Excuse me, still dealing with a little cold. Season official predictions for the Birds, and we'll get into the game later on into the week, man. The Phillies just cannot stop winning big ball games. They're 8-2 in their last 10. They're on a 3-game winning streak. They've won 4 of their last 5. It was a playoff atmosphere all weekend long at Citizens Bank Park, where they took 3 out of 4 against the Atlanta Braves. And what do, Scotty, after a short day off? They head up to Toronto and get down to a 6-1 deficit in the bottom of the first against those Blue Jays. And Kyle Schwarber and company storm all the way back to a 10-9 victory in the 9th inning. The Phillies fighting for that first overall spot in the NL, a game and a half behind the Dodgers for the best record in baseball and in the National League. They have a game and a half lead on the Milwaukee Brewers to keep them into a bye in the wild card round instead of getting that 3 spot. So we got a lot to discuss, my man. It's been a busy weekend. Hope everyone had a great Labor Day. Scotty and I got down to the bank. Obviously, the only Phillies loss of the series.
Of course.
However, in some random twist of fate, we meet the owner of the Phillies as he's just walking through the concourse section by himself, which was pretty damn cool. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a lot of things, guys. Subscribe, drop your comments, get involved in the show, and we're glad to be back. Football is officially back, Scotty.
Yes, sir. You hit the nail on the head. I love the intro there. Happy Hump Day, everybody. The Fightins crank us up last night. Get us all juiced up for football season. And it's only right. It's only right that they get us right before the Birds actually come back and start to fly here. So I'm feeling good, man. You mentioned it. We were down at the bank. Things didn't go well that night, right? But we still had a great time. We had some brews. I forgot the beer pong cups, but we still played some flip cup, got some games in, and got pretty
lost every game.
There. Lost game. But it's all good. We still had a lot of fun out there, man. And the Phillies did end up winning the series 3-1. So we were there for the only loss, which at the end of the day, I'm not too mad about at this point. If we get the series win, I'll take that. And then, of course, coming off of last night's electric win, that was just awesome to watch. The Kyle Schwarber game up in Toronto, just laying wood out there, bro. Pause. But, yeah, it's a great morning, man.
Being laid. It is a hump day, ladies and gentlemen.
You can see I'm feeling juiced this morning off that, man. I'm just getting excited talking about it. So, yeah, man, happy to be here, man. Eagles week. NFL week, fantasy football week, betting week, all of it, brother. I've kind of put everything to the side on my fitness journey. I had to put the gym down this week. I'm going all in on football this week, brother.
Oh yeah,
but I'm happy to be here, man. You could probably tell.
Yes, sir. The life of a true degenerate, brother. Love it. A little chill in the air yesterday too, getting down into the low 60s, high 50s as we hit the hay last night, man. Windows can start getting propped open a little bit. Feels like
Hoodies.
Football weather, man. But it also feels like Red October weather. So let's start with that Phillies win and the stretch that they're on, man, as we continue this journey and this hunt for another Red October. I titled this show, "The Phillies got their mojo back." And I fight with saying that because I'm not sure, as we've talked about throughout the last couple months, Scotty, that they've ever really lost it. You know, I texted you last night. Remember when they were going to lose in the first round of the playoffs? All because they went 10-14 in July. Like that was like they were getting hung on the crucifix for that one. But something does feel different about this past weekend and last night specifically for this team. And when I say they got their mojo back, what I mean is they're that lineup, the pitching staff on any given night, they're winning ball games I don't want to say in the same fashion, but that reminds you of May baseball. That reminds you of the early June Phillies, right? When they're just never out of a game. They can win in different fashions. You know, they can shut you out and beat you 2-0, 3-0 in a playoff atmosphere, or they can go on the road, and put up double digits on you and come from behind down 5 very early in a ball game. That's what I mean by got their mojo back. And I feel like over the last couple of weeks, specifically going back to mid-August, we've had moments where we keep saying, like, where were you when so-and-so saved the Phillies season? Where were you when the Phillies got their mojo back? Where were you when this?
Yeah.
And that's why I say I don't know that they really ever lost it, because we keep pointing to these moments. You can go back to the Kyle Schwarber grand slam against the Marlins that started a winning streak for the Phillies back in mid-August. You go to last night when he hits 3 home runs to solidify them a win, man. You can go to Nick Castellanos walk-offs. You can go to Zach Wheeler 7 shutout innings. You could point to a lot of things that say this team is still here and they are the best team in baseball, man. They are a lot of fun to watch. Again, obviously they were very frustrating for a short amount of time. But they did, Scotty. That mojo, that energy is back.
Yeah, no, it is back, man. And it's that feeling of this team can't lose. And I know that sounds it's just funny to say out loud at this point in the season during a 100.
I know exactly the feeling you're talking about.
But it is. It's that feeling as you're down 6-1 last night. And I won't lie to you. I was demoralized by that in the second inning. I don't love to see that. I don't love to have to come back from that deficit. But then you check back in, all of a sudden it's 6-4, I think it got to. Then Taijuan Walker happens. That also is part of just the typicalness of this team, right? Like, that is just so Phillies. But it is so Phillies to survive Taijuan Walker and come back and win the game, man. Like, that is the Phillies. It's what I mean when I say it feels like this team can't lose, because we've had, 2 Casty walk-offs in the last, 2 weeks. Him winning a game that way. We have Kyle Schwarber last night putting the game away. They did give up 1 run in that bottom of the 9th, man. They gave up a homer. That was Strom, I believe, at the end there. But nonetheless, they come away with the 1-run victory. It's exciting, man, and it's great to see these vibes coming back. I know we talk about it's like they never left, right? And I truly do believe that. Like, you've talked me through it. I've been on the ledge a couple times. You talked me off of it. But this is a team that, we say they're struggling. They're a little bit under 500 for 1 month.
Yeah.
And that's them struggling or choking or not going to make the World Series. Yeah. And to see them bounce back like this, man, you're seeing it come from all angles. Pause. On hump day. We got a lot of pauses here on hump day. But what I mean by that, everybody is starting to step up in different spots. You're seeing multiple guys with multi-hit games last night. Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber. Those are your guys. You've had Cassie the last few weeks come up clutch for your squad. You've had the great pitching outings from certain guys on given nights. So it really feels like they're starting to get the ball rolling. I think the one last piece for me, man, and the reason I say this is because we did go to the game on Friday night. We did get to see Ranger go on the mound and struggle in a sense, right, to the Braves. Right. And I think that
strikes out the first 6 batters.
Right. Say struggle, and it's really just that motherfucker Arcia, man. I cannot stand that dickhead. Of course, we go to the 2-homer game for Arcia, right? Like, of course, we witnessed that. But that is like kind of the last rolling piece for me to get figured out. Like Ranger Suarez, maybe not get back to like Cy Young Ranger at the beginning of the season, but just get back to that quality starting pitcher that we've had, that ace that we've grown to rely on with this squad. And just, reinitializing his name with the Nola, with the Wheelers of the rotation there. I think that's like the last piece, because the closers have looked pretty good. I mean, outside the bullpens look pretty good outside of Phaithful, but that's just the guy you probably are not going to see in the postseason. He's just an extra arm right now. So,
1,000%.
Yeah, man, I really love where the Phillies are at. It just shows you how fast things can change in baseball because we have a game every day, basically. So
Right.
things can change very fast, and I think
Right.
that's why it was
Which
good on
thank
you
you. Thank
to
you for
talk me
bringing
off the
that
ledge.
up.
Yeah,
Thank you for bringing that up because that's why I get so frustrated when people compare this sport to another, and more specifically being the NFL and football.
the
Like,
Eagles.
there's
Yeah,
no time for like that momentum to fade or for that like mentality to set in. You're
yeah,
playing every single day. Football, you go on a 2-week losing streak, then into a bye week. I mean, you're talking about a month before
a
you
month
can
of
try to
losing.
start to build back up and start to
Yeah,
get out of your own way. Baseball, there's no time for that, man. So they're not even close to being in the same stratosphere.
yeah,
17 games, 18 weeks compared to 162 over months and months of your summer and of your time. It's just not the same thing at all. To your point though, like you mentioned it, like the Braves game, that seems like forever ago now after
yeah,
that playoff atmosphere all weekend long and then that win last night. I mean, they were down what 4-0, 4-1 in that first Atlanta game, and then they end up coming all the way back. And Marsh hits a 3-run home run, and then Costi hits one to center field to take the lead late in that one. Wheeler comes out on Sunday and gives you 7 strong, or what was that? On Saturday, excuse me, and gives you 7 strong. And then they come out, and I believe who was it? Nola shuts the door on. Was it
yep,
Nola? Yeah,
yeah. It
on
was Nola.
on Sunday.
Yeah,
And they come and again they come from behind and they win in extra innings with a Castellanos walk-off hit. And then last night, obviously, like they're just what you. I know what you're talking about. It's that unwavering confidence when you
yeah,
say they're not gonna they just can't lose. Like they're not gonna.
yeah,
It's like going into each and every day. You wake up so confident in this team that they're never out of a ball game,
yeah,
no matter the circumstances, no matter what's going on, and no matter how early, excuse me, they're just never out of it, man. And you just feel
yeah,
like they're going to win each and every inning and each and every time out on the field, and that's kind of where they're at right now. And they just kept battling back last night, dude.
yeah,
What Kyle Schwarber
yeah,
did last night is so unhuman, like it's just so
yeah.
Herculean. It's unbelievable,
as
bro.
as someone who like never played baseball, like organized baseball, I've
Yeah,
never played baseball when I was younger. It just wasn't a sport that I
yeah,
got involved in. It is amazing to see somebody that is capable of doing that at a professional level. Like first of all, baseball in general, like swinging at a ball,
right.
at a
It's tough
ball like
enough.
this big, it's
Yeah.
just ridiculous. Like it's a ridiculous sport when it comes to like physics, analytics, that type of stuff. Um, to watch him be able to come up clutch like that is just really something.
Bro,
Like to
every at
look at a
bat.
pitcher and they understand it doesn't matter what you
Yeah.
throw. If you
Literally.
throw it in
And
the strike zone, it's getting
if you
cranked.
watch him
Like
specifically in that final at bat, and don't get me wrong, Ruben Amaro Jr. can just straight up bother me in a
yeah,
broadcast booth.
but
Okay.
staying
But
alive.
when Kyle was going through that at bat with second and third in the top of the ninth last night, and he had fouled off like 6, 7, 8 pitches in the at bat. It got to double digits
Yeah,
before he cranked one. And Ruben brought up a point, and you watch it like the next 2 foul balls. He's in such a zone right now. And I know it's like you sit back and you go, well, why has he changed the swing? Why? I don't know what it is. I don't know how they get in these moments. You could see it when Bryce is on one of those heaters. Just
yeah,
how the swing is, how short he is to the baseball, how quick his hands are
yeah,
in those moments. Kyle last night, dude, in that at bat, he's fouling off pitches, and the swing is so short and so powerful, and it's so quick to the baseball. It honestly felt like it didn't matter if that dude could pump 102 like Mason Miller.
yeah,
Nothing was getting by the bat of Kyle Schwarber with how short and quick it was. And then he finally gets one a little bit more down the zone. And if you go back and watch it, you'll see exactly. It's like the elbows get tucked in. The bat doesn't go all the way through the zone. It's so short to the baseball, and he's just so powerful, dude, when he makes contact like that. And I mean, that ball didn't stand a chance. And that's the mode he's in right now. And
yeah.
again, I know it's like, well, why can't he, why does he change the swing?
Like,
Why is
can
it?
he do it all the
I
time?
don't
Yeah,
know exactly what the how they get into these heaters that they get
yeah,
into and how the swings get different and tight, whatever.
It's a
But
rhythm. It's a feel. I mean, you heard Cassiano. Cassiano simplifies everything.
yeah,
He says, you just go out there. It's a feel thing.
yeah,
He's gonna try to crank one. I know it's probably not like that for Schwartz,
no,
for Harper. They're probably a little bit more technical with what they do, but it reminds me of a guy with like a great shooting stroke in basketball. And
yeah,
that form, you focus on the form. The form has to be perfect, right?
yeah.
The hand on the side of the ball, perfect wrist release. There's a lot more that goes into it as well that you can perfect that stroke. And I think that's what it is with baseball as well, man. You get in a rhythm, you get in a zone, and you're just feeling it on
Well,
top
exactly.
of
And
your
once he starts the
technical.
game like that, bro,
Yeah.
that ball looked this big to him last night.
Yeah.
That's what it comes
Yeah.
down to.
And the crazy thing about last night, it's kind of like what I was talking about earlier, though. Not only Schwarb's in this game, though, you have a lot
Everybody,
of other guys contributed in
everybody.
here as well and giving you exactly what you need, because you don't win without Schwarber's 5 for 6 last night, his 3 homers, but you don't win without Turner's 3 for 6, Harper's 2 for 6, Stott's 2 for 6, JT's 2 for 4, so on and so forth. Even Cassie had an RBI, even though he was 0 for 3 in this
Marsh got
game.
on
He
base
still
4
got a run in.
times. Marsh was 1 for
Yes.
2 with 3 walks.
So you're getting help from all over, and I'm glad you mentioned Marsh, because he's another guy over the weekend that was able to get a couple home runs in, right? Maybe 1 or 2. I can't remember if it was 2 or not,
2, I
but
believe.
he definitely went yard over the weekend a time or two. So once again, everybody's kind of getting some good work in right now. It's really just Ranger, that last piece I want to see, but it's not to say Ranger's been horrible. It's not like that. You just want to see him kind of iron out some of the kinks after coming
Right,
back from
because
injury.
Ranger Suarez changes
Your
the
ceiling.
dynamic of this 1 through 4
Yeah.
of this rotation. And if he is on again, like no one's asking him really to be Cy Ranger, like he was in the first month or 2 of the season. But if Ranger Suarez can just be himself, that calm, collected person, right? That changes everything for this rotation, because now
Yeah.
Christopher Sanchez is your legitimate 4, and no one has a 4 like Christopher Sanchez. So that's a difference maker in the postseason, as well, dude. Another thing I wanted to shout out that you kind of brought up a few minutes ago, but we know this lineup was electric last night, and we know they've had their moments over the last couple of weeks, and in Kansas City they were on fire as well. They're starting to crank home runs. They're starting to play small ball. They're winning they're scoring runs and winning in different ways. But the bullpen, man, and the pitching as well, like Wheeler,
Yeah.
Sanchez, Nola, like they've all been great. Colby Allard, when he made a start before getting sent down, he was great, right? The bullpen, though. Strom, I know he gave up a solo home run with 2 outs last night, but Strom, calm back down. He's back into the groove of things. Hoffman, back into the groove. Kirkering, way back into the groove. And
Alvarado.
Remember, dude? Remember? They didn't do anything at the trade deadline. They didn't do nothing at the trade deadline to help bolster this bullpen. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. They didn't go out and get the number 1 option on the market in Estevez. And what does he do in the most important game at that point of the season, in extra innings, 2-2 at the bank, playoff atmosphere, just like we're going to see in a little over a month? He holds the Atlanta Braves to 0 runs in extra innings with those ghost runners starting on second in the 10th and 11th. Dude, that was one of the best pitching performances, one of the biggest pitching performances you have seen or could ask for in a moment like that.
Yeah,
and
against
it gives
the Braves.
Castellanos the opportunity to come up in the bottom of the 11th and send the Phillies home and send the Braves packing, man. That was freaking awesome. It was gigantic to what this team's building right now. Because let's just say, Scotty,
that game specifically that you're talking on with Estevez at the end, Strom was great in that game as well. He had a couple walks, but still good, got us out of there. 19 pitches for Estevez in 2 innings, 2 Ks, gets us out of there, no runs. To your point, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, though.
No, bro, you're fine. Like I was just pulling up the box score to go along with you. Like that's what I'm talking about. Kirkering, an inning scoreless. Hoffman, an inning scoreless with 2 Ks. Strom, an inning scoreless, but did have a hit, 2 walks, obviously loaded the bases, but gets out of it. And then you have Estevez, 2 innings, 2 Ks, no hits, no walks, no runs, with the ghost runner starting on second.
Yeah.
That is fucking gigantic. Again, in that moment, in that atmosphere, late Sunday night, holiday weekend, at home under the bright lights against that team. And like just in that moment to come away with that performance, it just starts to build and breed the confidence that you're going to need as a closer getting the ball in the ninth come postseason time. Now, let me ask you this, though. And again, I know it's different, than in the regular season. Guys are getting nights off more than they will in the postseason. I know when he was brought here, they said he was going to be the guy, but obviously, we've seen Strahm close a game last night. But obviously, I don't think Estevez was available. We've seen Hoffman close games. We've seen him bring out Alvarado in the ninth. We've seen Kirkring all post-trade deadline.
Yeah.
How important is, because I feel pretty strongly about this. Like, Carlos Estevez is my closer come playoff time. Like, I'm not, because you need to be in that mind. Bro, getting those last 3 outs are different. That is a different animal than pitching in the 7th in a tie ball game, pitching in the 8th in a 1-run ball game. It is different to get those last 3 outs, especially in a win or go home situation or in a playoff situation. The guy needs to know he's the guy. And I love to, how I feel about Topper. If you were going to allow Craig Kimbrell to keep that leash as the closer for as long as you did last year, Carlos Estevez better be your closer come postseason time, because I don't want, dude, it's just, again, it's a mindset thing. It's a confidence thing. It can't be one night it's Hoffman, one night it's Estevez, one night it's Hoffman. You can't do that, man. You need a setup guy. You need a closer. Now, maybe if there's 3 lefties coming up in the ninth, maybe Strahm does get the nod. I don't know in situations like that. But anything outside of like 3 straight left-handed hitters, no, Carlos Estevez would be my guy in the 9th inning.
Yeah, no, I'm actually just checking his last few just to see exactly when he's come in, and it does seem like he comes in at the end of the game. So just want to check against the Astros. Can't remember. So he did bring him in before Strahm in that game.
That
so
might have been situation. That might have been because of the order, that I can somewhat understand. I'm just talking like righty on righty. It shouldn't be Hoffman over Estevez. It shouldn't no. He was brought here to be your 9th inning guy.
It's something to pay attention to over the last this last month of the season, right? How does Topper use these guys? How does Topper use his bullpen specifically? Because I do agree with you. I think we need to start now looking to get prepared specifically for the postseason. Like, you need to start building routines, right? And rhythm in a sense. And part of that is knowing your role on the roster. So I think this month specifically, maybe you just lock him into that role. Like, maybe Estevez is not pitching unless he's in that role. Now, obviously, there's outliers. If you get ahead in games, if you're winning going into you won't need him. But maybe just like honing in on him in that role, if that's what you mean. I do agree with that. And I think that goes for this entire lineup, like the rest days. It almost makes sense that you see those rest days in August, you see those rest days in July, because you shouldn't see them as much in the month of September as you start to approach the postseason in Red October. They need to get into rhythm, start to build some consistency here. So, yeah, from that point of view, I do agree. The other guy in the bullpen that I wanted to point to was Jose Alvarado. I know he went away. He had some family issues. He's come back and has been steady, though, since he's returned nonetheless. I think last night he only got 1 inning. It was in the middle of the game. But it'll be good to just have these guys all in the right mental headspace. And I think that's what we're getting outside of Taijuan Walker in reality. And then, of course, Tyler Phillips last night with the start. He didn't have a great night, but that's not a guy you expect to see in the postseason. So really just ironing out this pitching rotation is what we're talking about. The guys like Strahm, Kirkring, Alvarado, Estevez, these are going to be your go-to guys in the postseason, and you need them to be locked in. And right now, it seems like they're coming around. Strahm, he's looked a little shaky in moments, right? Like against the Braves, where you have the 2 walks and you got bases loaded. But he gets out of it, man. And that's once again what we're talking about. Like, yeah, you don't want to build yourself into that situation. Just like last night, you don't want to get down 6-1. But if you do, if it happens, if something goes wrong, you do have the ability, and they've shown that they should have the confidence to dig themselves out of any hole that they come across. And I think that is going to be something that they can hone in on in October, man. Like this season, this brings me to a point actually, because I'm thinking about this season and how it's different from the last 2 seasons where the Phillies have gone deep into the postseason. Mm-hmm. It's that they have been on top, right? They've felt what it's like to be on top. They felt what it's like to have a little bit of a losing streak or a little bit of a cold streak. They've learned what the feedback is for that cold streak, and they've also learned how to get out of it as well. And I think that's going to be a big thing for them going into this postseason, is not having that wavering confidence. That confidence should be there, man, that they can come back, they can beat anybody in this league, and ultimately go on to win the big World Series. So I think this difference in the way the season has played out, I know it's been a little painful, a little bit of turmoil during July and August, June maybe, but right. I think it's only going to make them stronger.
August where they went like 20-13 or something like
struggling that. August, man. I do think it was the good thing for them to experience that, man, because you get these teams every year. You've seen the Dodgers, get to 100 wins and then lose in the first round because they're just not ready. I think this, maybe the month of July, June, maybe that can be like a wake-up call in a sense.
Well, I think it's a good point because I think the way I would describe this season has kind of been character building for this team. And when you talk about going through these stretches, feeling like what it's like to be on top for so long, feeling that, moment of letting it slip, knowing how to get it back. Even these games, right? These come from behind victories where you're down 6-0, where you're down 7-0, where, the bullpen blows one, but you still fight back and walk it off in the bottom of the ninth. Those are all character building wins, man, and moments where when you get into a postseason struggle and you're down. I mean, this happened in Houston in the World Series in Game 1. They went down 5-0 in like the first 2 or 3 innings, came back and won 6-5 in extra innings. Like, those are the moments where you can look back. The dugout, no one should be getting quiet. No one should have their heads down. No one should be worried. Like, we're a confident group. We're down 3-0. We're down 4-1, whatever the case may be, and they can battle back because of everything that they've accomplished and went through all regular season long. Now,
exactly.
The last thing I was going to bring up, man, and again, it's just like how we talk about how we keep pinpointing these specific moments where you can go, man, where were you when Schwarber saved the season? Where were you when Estevez saved all this stuff? If I get like one more spam thing from Xfinity saying I won a reward, get off my screen. Like we have all these moments, and that's what I mean by baseball is just such a momentum sport, Scotty, because you go to that Estevez moment on Sunday night where he said, if he doesn't do that, if the Phillies lose, if Kasi doesn't walk it off, and we go into yesterday down 6-1, so you're coming off of an extra inning loss, whatever the case may be, against Atlanta. Yeah. You split 2-2, the division 6 games, not 7 games. And then you head into Toronto and you immediately go down 6-1. Maybe your heads aren't held as high. Maybe that core is not ready to come back right now. And then maybe you don't come back yesterday. Maybe you lose 2 straight now. And now we're heading into a game 2 out of 2 in Toronto in afternoon baseball. And we need to win to get to right the ship. It's like there's so many little moments throughout a baseball season that can save a team, that can save a spot. And that's what this last series against the Braves did, man. And they just continue to build off of it. It's humongous for this team.
Yeah. And you knew that they had to have a moment like that in the season where I don't want to say put the Braves away. You still have a month to go, but they're 7 games up and they maintain that separation with that series by winning that series. And you knew that there was going to be kind of like a coming of age in a sense when it comes to the Braves, this division, and having to definitively put them away to win the division. Now, I'm not going to sit here and act like this is over once again. There's 7 games up. There's a month to go. If things go completely downhill, they could definitely lose the division still. But you knew that you had to have that like marker in this season where you definitively stepped over the Braves for this division. And I think that 4-game series in Philly was it, man, where you get the 3-1 victory. You mentioned it, and I think the thing about these games against the Braves specifically is that most of them, outside of that game we went to on Friday, they were all close as hell, had us on the edge of our seat until the end. And I think, once again, character builders for the Phillies moving forward when you're put in those situations. So it'll be interesting to see what they do today, coming off, once again, another huge W last night. Can they keep that going? Do they have a little bit of a letdown in an early game after they, go out and make a comeback win like that last night? But I don't know, man. I just, I think from this point on, I think we can trust the Phillies. I think that's what I come out of the month of August saying.
I hope so.
Ultimately, is that we should be able, not just me and you, but we as a fan base should be able to trust.
Yes, every single person, man, should be confident in this baseball team. They are what, 82 and 56 at this point. Like I said, they're a game and a half behind the Dodgers for the best record in the major leagues and in the National League. It's been a journey, don't get me wrong. Dan, that's the issue, man. That's the thing they've run into with this 5th starter. Good to see you, by the way, Martian.
Right.
Missed you.
We got the so some matchups to look out for this month. I mean, this month is going to be important overall, of course. You got the Marlins, the Rays, got the Mets twice, right? You got them once in Philly, once in New York, first 2 series. You got the Brewers,
which are huge, man. Like the Mets are not going. Francisco Lindor will not let the Mets go quietly into the night. They are trying to make the playoffs right now.
Yeah. So you got some. You still got some big matchups there. You got you got the Mets in Philly, then you got the Brewers in Milwaukee, and then you got the Mets in New York, all in a row. So there is
that Brewers series is humongous when it comes to standings. And what the Phillies want to accomplish, because again, we like the goal, if you want to set out a goal before the season, it is to win the division. It is to, whatever, but it really doesn't matter if you don't get one of the top 2 seeds in the National League. You fail to accomplish that and you get the 3rd spot. All you're doing now is hosting a wild card series.
They're up they're up a game and a half on the Brewers. The Brewers have the Rockies, Giants, Diamondbacks, Phillies, Diamondbacks, Pirates, and Mets left this season. So
I got to know what he means. Is it because I'm on the other side today? Is that what he means? I think that's what he means.
It's funny because I didn't even notice, but that might be the case because I hopped in first.
Yeah.
And you usually hop on the screen first.
I'm assuming that's what he means. I just want to know if there's anything wrong with our screen. I can't. That's what I want to know. But I'm sure
it might be that. Yeah, I didn't even notice, man. So I guess I don't have OCD.
All right, Marshall, let's have some fun. I know he's tired of talking Phillies until we get to the postseason. So let's get into our official 2024 Philadelphia Eagles predictions. We're going to talk players. We're going to talk schedule. We're going to talk team wins. We're going to look at a bunch of stuff today. And then on Friday's show, on the pregame show, we're going to get into that week 1 matchup with the Packers more specifically, more in depth, and give our predictions for that one. So let's have some fun with it, Scotty. Again, I know when the schedule was released, you and I went through it. We gave our initial thoughts, our glimpses, any rough patches like they had last year, any rough stretches. I am going to freak out whether this is spam or not. Stop changing my screen to I can win an iPhone 15. Get out of here, dude. Now I got to go back to my Eagle schedule. 1 second, please, people. All right. I'm just
need a new phone,
That's it. We're off. We're exiting out. We're not using this computer the rest of the day. Going to use the phone, Scotty. Going to use the phone. Dear Lord.
I do have the schedule in front of me if you need any help, my man.
There we are. We got the Eagles schedule pulled up. Jesus. All right, man. Like I said, I know when the schedule first came out, we went through it. We looked if there were any rough patches, any rough stretches,
Yeah.
difficult moments, and there are later on in the season. We'll get to those. But I think where we both came out to, again, you try the issue with trying to pick games just on the blank schedule before the season starts is you never really pick them to lose a game that they shouldn't lose, but you know that they're going to lose a game they shouldn't lose, as do 99% of the teams in the National Football League and all of sports do. And you only pick them to really lose the really difficult games that you're 50-50 on, that you're unsure on. And you try not to be too homerish. You don't want to pick them to be, 14-3 or 15-2, but we'll see what we have for this Eagles team, man. Now, I don't know how you want to do this. I don't know if you want to go game by game, if you want to just give stretches. But I'll throw it to you, man. What are you looking at when it comes to this Eagle schedule and what the ceiling is for this team?
Yeah, it's interesting. So when you start out the season, you look at these first like 4 to 5 games, right? You got the Packers in Brazil, you got the Falcons in Philly, Saints in New Orleans, Bucks in Tampa Bay. And then you come back to Philly for the Cleveland Browns. I guess my question to you, just to start this conversation, I guess, as I look at this, man, it feels like one of these first 2 games could be a loss. And I don't want to say that I think that they're going to lose just because of who they're playing. It's not necessarily the competition. It's the fact that you're in Brazil and then you return from Brazil. So whether the tough matchup is just the travel to Brazil, it's like an awkward game because you had to travel to Brazil, you're over there, it's different, a time difference, all of that, right? We know what goes into traveling. But then also the return. So the jet lag of returning from Brazil to the US and then coming back to Philly and playing your next game once again in a different time zone from the previous week. So there is a worry for me there, but I'll throw this to you. Out of our first 5 games, let's just segment it like that with the first 5 here. We could even do first 4 if you want, whatever works. But which one would you say you would predict to be our first loss? Like, which one is most likely in your eyes?
Of the first 2?
The first, yeah, you could say first 2, maybe first 4 even. Like, I'm just, where do you think the first loss comes? I'll ask it to you that way.
Well, I had the boys starting 4-0, so I don't think they're coming in the first 4 weeks. However, if I had to pick a spot where they drop one, unfortunately, I do think it will be Friday night in Brazil. But that's just tough for me to say because I do believe, like, I know this sounds crazy, I do believe it's a very important game for the Eagles. Like week 1, like just to get back on track. And I know there's a lot of new faces in here. There's somewhat of a new core. Kelsey's gone, Fletch is gone. There's 2 new OCs. It is not the same team, really, if you get what I'm saying. But how last year ended, the hot seat that the head coach is on. And again, it all depends how you lose a game. I know that, but just to get that taste out of your mouth as a fan, just to get a win under our belts, and a good win at that, to go to another country, to beat a team that I personally cannot stand because of how much the outside noise, the outside world is building them up and building this quarterback up to be so early on. I really want this win. And that's why I think the Eagles are going to win. I'm picking them to win. Spoiler alert for everybody that's going to tune in on Friday. But that would have to be the one that I look at and go, it's the most losable. I don't think they're losing to Atlanta week 2. It's the home opener. It's Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins in prime time. This is 3 straight years of week 2 football being on prime time at Philly against Kirk Cousins. It was back-to-back years with the Minnesota Vikings, and now we get them in Atlanta. And that's another team that people are building up, and all of a sudden they're going to be, the number 1 seed in the NFC, and they're Super Bowl contenders all of a sudden because Kirk effing Cousins is their quarterback. I don't know what people are snorting or drinking or smoking nowadays, Scotty, but that's just not happening. So the weird thing for the first 4, right? I do have the Eagles going 4-0. I don't care if it's homerish. I don't care, right? I think they win the first 4 games. And the interesting part is 3 of the 4 are tone-setting games, even though they're not the toughest games on your schedule, right? They're not Cleveland. They're not at the Bengals. They're not Dallas. They're not the Rams. They're not the Ravens. They're not any of those more difficult games. But
Yeah.
like I said, you have a Green Bay team who people are already saying, are going to eclipse you as the class of the NFC, and Jordan Love's an MVP candidate. He's better than Jalen Hurts, so on and so forth. You have the Atlanta Falcons, who are newly equipped. Kirk Cousins. People are picking them to get to the NFC Championship game. And then in week 4, you travel down to take on the team that embarrassed you at that very stadium just a few short months ago and ended your season and really started all of this offseason dialogue and issues, right? So 3 of those first 4 games are against NFC, not really rivals, but NFC teams that the Eagles are being compared to early on. And I need them to send messages in the first month, man.
Yeah. No, I do agree with you. I get where you're coming from. I guess the reason I say that about the first 2 games and this first 4 game stretch, right? One, last year we started 10-0, right? So I'm just like, man, can we start undefeated again? How long can that go? But then on the other side of it, it's also just if they can go to Brazil, beat the Packers, who are a playoff team, then come back to Philly within a 2-week span, not even a 2-week span, right? Like it's not even 2 weeks. It's basically a week span that they've gone to Brazil, beat the Packers, a playoff team, then come back to Philly, beat the Falcons, another playoff team, supposedly. I just think that would be an immaculate start. And mind you, it's not impossible. It's something that they very well can do. They're favored to do. I guess what I'm trying to say is if they win those first 2 games, I don't see how they lose. I feel like that going to Brazil is a very viable excuse to lose a game, like whether that's the game that's in Brazil or the game coming back. That being said, I do feel you. These are 2 teams they should beat. The Saints at home, I'm not scared of Derek Carr, or the Saints in New Orleans, I should say. Yeah. I'm not scared of Derek Carr regardless. I do agree with you. The Buccaneers game, that's going to be a tone setter down there in Tampa Bay. Then you get to the Browns, the Giants, the Bengals, the Jags. So you got them starting 4-0.
At worst, I do agree. They're 3-1 at the end of the first month for my money.
3-1
heading into the bye. 4-0 or 3-1 heading into the bye, which I absolutely hate this bye week. Dude. Week 5, dude.
That's after the Bucks, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
In an 18-week season, you give us a bye in week 5?
Yeah. So then you go in, you play the Browns at home, you play the Giants in New York, you play the Bengals in Cincy, you play the Jags at home. Where are the Eagles at in this stretch specifically? So 3-1, 4-0, whatever in the first stretch of 4 games. What about in this 4-game stretch?
I mean, at worst, you're 2-2 over this stretch. You're not losing to the Giants. You're not losing to the Jags at home.
Yeah.
Now the question becomes, what's a more winnable game? Going to Cincy on the road or playing the Browns at home? Both are going to be really good tests. Both are going to be fun games. Obviously, when you look at Cincinnati, you look at that offense. You look at Jamar Chase and you look at Joe Burrow. But then when you get to Cleveland, not only, Nick Chubb could be back by that point. They're a physical team. We'll have a month of tape on Deshaun Watson, see what he looks like to start 2024. But it's that defense, right? How are the Eagles going to move the ball effectively in this one?
And
I would say...
Oh, good.
My bad. I'm trying not to be too homerish. Like I'm trying not to say, they're going to be 7-1 again heading into that Dallas matchup. I'll say through these games, the Eagles are. So how many will they have played? 4. I'll say they're 6-2.
Yeah, that's kind of what I would agree with. Somewhere a loss in the first. I almost want to group the first 5 games together just to include the Browns because I think that they could be the first loss out of the 5. And then maybe they lose to the Bengals on the road, and then that's how they get to 6-2. But that's the weird thing with the Browns game. If they go 4-0, then it almost feels like they're due for a loss against the Browns. But
Yeah.
the game is at home. So, like, is that the more winnable game of the Browns and the Bengals? Like, you're playing a Browns team that if you played them in the dog pound, it would be pretty tough. You're going against that defense on the road, but you play them at home. You go to Cincy. The only thing with Cincy is, like, how I feel. We talked about them just last week. You know how I feel about them. I feel like they are on the verge of, I don't want to say a down year, but just not the juggernaut that they've
No.
been in
No.
previous years. Yeah, I would say 6-2, nonetheless, after the first 8 games.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
You have at Dallas, you have the Commanders, at Rams, at Ravens. Now, this is a tough stretch. I mean, you're talking 3 or 4 on the road, one of which being your division rival in the Cowboys, and then you have 2, playoff / championship type of contenders here when it comes to the Ravens and the Rams.
Yeah.
This is the most, 2-2 looking stretch that I've seen. Here's the thing, right? And why I say I'm trying not to be homerish, but it's hard for me because I do believe the Eagles are this good. I do believe that the Eagles are going back to the NFC Championship game. I don't see any stretch where the Eagles are going to go 1-3 over a month span. I just don't. So again, if I had to pick, I don't really know. I don't know, man, because I think they win the Rams game. I'm going to pick them to lose Ravens games. They're not losing to the Commanders. And Dallas, I think you and I talked about this a couple weeks ago with the offseason Dallas has had, the offseason we've had. If there was ever a time, we always say, oh, they split. There was ever a time to put your foot on this team's throat and take both against the Cowboys. It is this season. They did nothing. They accomplished nothing. They have Ezekiel Elliott, Brandon Cooks, and Dalvin Cook playing offense for them with CeeDee Lamb. They have nothing else. They've lost 3 starting offensive linemen. They lost Dan Quinn. They didn't do a whole lot on the defensive side of things. They did nothing this offseason while you bolstered your entire roster and are trying to be the class of the NFC. Go win both. But again, I can't really say, oh, they're going to go 3-1 over this stretch right here with confidence.
Yeah, it is tough. It's exactly what you said. You don't want to be a homer. Part of me feels like they lose one of the games on the road against the Rams and the Ravens. So, like you said, whether it's winning against the Rams in LA or winning against the Ravens in Baltimore, I think they lose or drop one of those games. The Commanders is interesting just because it feels like I don't know, a weird feeling we split with them this year, but they're not going to win the game in Philly, right? They would do some weird
on prime time on Thursday Night Football. No, I don't think so.
Yeah, that's true. It is Thursday night. The Eagles in Dallas. I think you do have a good point. I'm gonna go, man. Am I being a homer?
I mean, I'll tell you this before you go.
I want to say 3-1 in this stretch, but
I would love to, man. And they can. That's the thing. It's just tough not trying to sound too much like a homer. Then again, we are the Phaithful Fanatics. This is a Philly sports talk podcast.
Let me just say 2-2.
Fuck everybody else.
Yeah. But let me just say 2-2. They'll lose to 2 of Cowboys, Rams, Ravens.
So we're 12 games in right now. We had the Eagles around 8-4, 9-3. Let's just say that's where we had them at, right?
Yeah.
Now you get to this close, and let's just group these last 5. You have the Panthers at home, the Steelers at home, at Washington, Cowboys at home, Giants at home. Here's the thing: this is a stretch where you could be looking at 1, 2, 3, 4. You could be looking at 4-1. It's not impossible they sweep to end it. I'm just saying, to be a little bit more fair, 4-1, whether you lose to Dallas and you do split, or you beat Dallas but you lose to a tough Steelers defense in a sloppy game. I don't envision Pittsburgh coming in here and winning, but who knows?
Yeah. I feel like that game will have a lot of hype around it.
Regardless, 4-1.
Could be the Commanders in DC.
4-1, but that has them. But you know what the thing is, Scotty? Even though it sounded like we were starting off so homerish, that has them right where I have them. Whether they're 8-4 and go 4-1, that makes them what 12-5.
12
Whether
and
they're
12
9
and
and 3,
5.
they go 13-4, and that's exactly where I have the
That
Eagles.
sounds about right.
12-5, 13-4, somewhere around there. I think
Yeah.
they have a ceiling of 14-3, but
Yeah.
that's incredibly difficult to reach.
What's the game that you bank on them losing this year? Like if you had to bet them to lose one game, and then what's one game that you just know they're going to lock in? And let's take it out of the division, right? Like
Yeah.
one game outside of the division you think that they're going to lose, or you're just set on them losing, and then maybe one game that you just look at as a lock for them to win.
All right. I'll go with the loss. I'll go back to, and again, this is just as me like envisioning it. I'm going to go to Cincinnati and go with the Bengals only because, and again, we're going to have over a month of football in to see, and I'm hoping Vic Fangio and this new look defense is stellar. But if I'm just going off of what I have up here from previous Eagles defenses, I can just envision Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and not being able to get off the football, not being able to get off the field, giving up 31, 34 points and losing in a shootout type of game. That's the one. I mean, it's easy for me to say they're at Ravens, man. Like that is obviously the more difficult game than at Bengals. But in a weird way, man, I think that is a hell of a football game that I don't know which way it goes.
Reminds me of the Bills game last year where we very well could have lost that game in Philadelphia to the Buffalo Bills in overtime. We could have. We were able to gut it out, pull out a victory behind a Jalen Hurts like masterclass. And I think it's that type of situation. Like you're going to be having a Lamar masterclass versus Jalen masterclass going on, and it's whoever can come out on top at the end. So I do agree with you there. I think that's
my
all-out
win.
war.
I mean, there's a couple different routes I'll go. Not to be like so easy and say, oh, one of the Giants or one of the Commanders games because you play them twice and they're in division. Out of division, I'm going to take the less easy route, and I'm going to go with Week 4 at Tampa Bay, man. I think the head coach, I think QB1, I think every single person that was in that building back in January understands the assignment heading into that matchup. And that is a game you go in and you take care of business, just like they did in Week 3 last year on Monday Night Football against Baker and Tampa Bay down in that building. You go in and you take care of business in that one, man. You leave no doubt with how that season ended last year.
Yeah, no, I like that pick as well. There's a lot. I think there's a lot of like underlying motivation that will go into that game. Yeah, I do like the Bucks pick. I think for my definitive loss, I mean, it's so hard for me to say that because they can beat anybody. But to your point, I'll just go in a different direction. We agree on the Ravens. That's going to be a tough game. They could definitely lose that game. The best opponent that they'll play this season.
Yeah, I agree.
For my money. Yeah. But the Rams in LA, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, the Kyron Williams, a big bruising back, right? Can get you goal line touchdowns, right? When you get in the red zone, he's money. Matthew Stafford, similar to Joe Burrow, right? Just a great passing quarterback who can just dissect you through the air. Sean McVay, experienced head coach. They're at home. That is a game as well as the Bengals where you talk about air attack and not being able to get off the field. That looks like a game that could be pretty annoying for us. So the Rams, I would throw them in there as well. It just sucks we're playing them and the Ravens back to back on the road, man. That's going to be
but it's going to make for fun. Stretch. But it's going to be fun though, man. It's going to make for fun content, fun pregame shows, and stuff like that. Because it's like same with the Sixers, right? Like we love to look at the schedule and go, oh, they could go like 5-0 here, and then they get to the tough part. You're like, ooh, but when you get to that tough part and you play the Celtics one night on ESPN, then you play the Bucks on TNT, it's like you're getting up for those games. You know what I mean? So back-to-back Sundays on the road. You're going to have big-time matchups with one of them being on Sunday Night Football. But I do think it's a good spot. I think they're 12-5, 13-4. Again, without sounding too homerish, it's hard to go above them, man. What do you want me to? You want me to sit here and say they're going to go 15-2? I'm not saying it's impossible, but come on, like,
but
I don't know. I don't think any team in the NFL is going to go 15-2 this year. We'll see.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I just want to, before we get off here,
That's a good point, though. There's a lot of parity in the NFL this year as well. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say there's 6 teams that could win the Super Bowl.
right,
Like you got to pick your poison when it comes to beating Patrick Mahomes in the big game,
right.
but there are quite a few legitimate teams that can beat one
Yep.
another on any given day. Quite a few, more than half
man.
the league. So
I do just want to say, and I see Martin's comment, I'm going to get to that question in a second, but though I know we're going to talk more about it in depth on Friday morning and especially on the pregame show together. But Friday night, man, and I know, football's back, so obviously I have more juice. I'm ready just to see. We didn't even get to see the starters in any of the 3 preseason games, so we're just dying and craving and waiting to see this team in action. And you want to win so badly. You want to start. There's just such a difference in confidence as a fan, right?
Yeah.
When you turn on ESPN on Monday morning and your team's got 1-0 next to it and not 0-1, right? There's just a different mentality, right? When you get to Friday night, this is such a tone-setting game for me, man. Like, there is so much noise surrounding this Eagles team and the head coach and the quarterback all offseason long, all the articles, all the reports, everything. You go to Brazil and you're playing a team that people have just bolstered up on this pedestal, have just bolstered up this offense, this quarterback, everything about this team pisses me off, man. I don't know what it is. They're not in our division. I should like them. They have a young, exciting quarterback, but it's all that outside noise, man, that pisses me off. In our conference, people picking them over us. And it's not just that. It's not just if you lose to that team. It's if you start 0-1. This is an Eagles team. I saw CJ Gardner-Johnson's interview by his locker yesterday talking about how they're all backing Coach Nick and they're playing for Coach Nick and, we're blocking out the noise and we're a family and stuff. It's just like there's going to be noise on Monday morning if you lose. And right, that doesn't do anything about your season. That does not mean, you're going to go out and you're going to go at home and lose to Atlanta and the season's just a wash after one game. But there is going to be noise, and that's the last thing I want for this football team to start this new, exciting year with all these expectations I have.
No, I do agree with you there. I think there's a lot of hype that's going to come out of this game, regardless of how it goes, one way or the other. You just hope that the Eagles are on top of it. And I do agree, man. You got people talking about who's the bigger MVP candidate between Jordan Love and Jalen.
Yeah, I'm tired of it, bro. Like, I really am.
It is. It is gross to hear them talk about it. And to your point, that's why the Eagles need to show up for this game and shut this shit up, because we can't go through the season with Jordan Love having a one-up on us. And when I was thinking about like my lock to win, man, I did. As contradictory as it sounds,
you didn't want to go with Friday. I did too. I wanted to, I wanted to go with
Green Bay or Atlanta. Like I think we're going to try really hard to win those.
I personally wanted to set the tone for the Eagles before the Eagles could set the tone for everybody else. I wanted to say this is the game they will not lose because they are just a better fucking team, regardless of what everybody else has to say. But yeah, man, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be weird. It's going to be different, right? Playing on a Friday night.
We'll get into it more on Friday, obviously, with the pregame show, everything, giving official predictions. But I think that is the one worry that you go into this game with against the Packers. It is the first game of the season. So a young defense, what does that look like to start the season? That's
two new coordinators with a lot of guys that did not play a single snap in preseason football. Yeah, there's going to be – go back to Detroit, man, week 1 2 years ago. How bad did they look just taking somebody to the ground? They could not tackle as professionals in week 1 because they didn't really play. Yeah, of course, that's a little bit of concern. However, I will say, regardless of not playing in those game minutes, getting in those game snaps, from all reports, I did hear that the Eagles were more physical, more up-tempo, longer practices, everything this training camp under Nick Sirianni, differently than they had been the first 3 years under the Sirianni regime. So, that is a positive, right? That they're doing that. But to Martians, let me read this question from Martian here. Who's your surprise early trade name if this D-line isn't impactful? out of the gate. Like a guy that we would trade or a guy that we're looking to bring in? Because I mean, see the issue, Scotty. I know you saw the report, but I know he just got extended yesterday. Cam Hayward got extended by the Steelers. He was a name being floated out there. He's just an interesting one because like you have a plethora of D tackles right now.
Yeah.
You're lacking like true D ends. So if Bryce Huff isn't, what we were hoping for, Brandon BG has nothing left in the tank. Nolan Smith doesn't take a leap. Like, yeah, you might have to go out and find somebody on the edge. I'm not really sure who I have off the top of my head.
So I'm just
because I would try to be realistic. I don't want to just throw out a fucking superstar's name that's not going to be on the trade block at all.
Right, and it would have to be like somebody on a team that maybe
I've seen multiple people throw this out there.
His contract is crazy, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
It's got a crazy cap hit, but you know how that works if they're willing to take some. I don't know. Max Crosby. I mean, I doubt they're going to trade him in Las Vegas. Shit. Like, I know, like, not to start the season, but it's an interesting thought. As I go down the list, I guess you would think of it more as teams that are disappointing to start the year. Like, who could they be? Like, maybe the Tennessee Titans, for example. You got like a Harold Landry III. I'm not saying that you trade a guy like that by any means.
Right.
That guy, but just thinking of teams where things could go south. The Miami Dolphins with Bradley Chubb and who's this other guy? Double digit. Zach Sealer. He's interesting. A defensive tackle, double digit sacks last year. I'm just going off the top of my head. I'm not saying these guys are going to be. Yeah. I feel you on that. March. That's a pipe dream. That's what we would call that, a pipe dream. Max Crosby, we know he's a Sixers fan, so maybe he forces his way over here. He's got a major contract, too. I don't think we're trading for anybody with a major contract. Now, Khalil Mack's contract might expire.
Right.
So that's the difference there. But I know Crosby just got an extension, so I doubt that. But yeah, I would say, anybody mixed in there in the middle, like anywhere from like 6 to 8 to 9 sacks last year that you can get for the low. Those are going to be the type of guys Howie would look for. But edge rusher is what I would point to if I had to pick one right now. I don't think we're trading back or anything.
Before we wrap up, I did see a tweet too, which was kind of, let me see if I still have it right here. It should still be right around here. All right. Well, it's not there, but anyway, we know the news now. Could you imagine?
Golly.
I did see a tweet. So obviously we know the news now that Devin White's not traveling to Brazil with the team. He is out for Friday night's game, which sucks. But in addition to that, I don't know if it was McLean or who I saw tweet it, saying that there were kind of a little bit of inklings of rumors that the Eagles could be looking to move White before the season started because of the camps that Zach Bond and Nakobe Dean had, and now not traveling for week one's not helping his chances to make an impact on this team. Which I think is crazy.
Yeah, that feels dumb. At the very least, if you like Zach Bond, you like Trotter, you like Dean, whatever, you want to start them, you can start them, bring Devin White on here and there. Like, you don't need to deplete your depth there completely. So that is definitely a little weird. Yeah, I don't think I would do that, man. Just being honest with you.
This isn't the tweet I was looking for, but here's another one.
You can get anything in return that's worth it.
No. And so this isn't the specific one, but it might have been him that said it anyway. He said Nakobe Dean was slated to be the Eagles starting Mike linebacker before the team listed Devin White on the injury report. Dean beat White out in training camp. It's unclear what role the Eagles had for White, if any, on defense. Nevertheless, he wasn't on the plane when the team departed for Brazil this morning. I did not hear any of this come out of any.
And yet the team's listing him on the injury report. like out.
Yeah.
And what was his injury? Like a hand
It's an
or
ankle, I believe.
an
See, he
ankle?
wrote an article
Yeah.
on it too. Injured Devin White not traveling to Brazil with the Eagles, but he had already lost his starting MLB spot to Nakobe Dean. I did not hear or see any tweets or reports about that throughout camp. If anything, up until like the last week, Nakobe Dean was struggling every other day in camp.
Right. And everybody was talking about how Devin White was a leader and how he's been a great addition to the defense.
I don't know, man.
I don't know. Just weird. Yeah, drama already. I don't know if I'd call it drama just yet, but I guess it is. It's reports. It's speculation.
Well,
So
it's annoying because Devin White was a guy I was excited for to help out this defense.
yeah, like, and why not just see what he looks like in a game before you like come out and start making these declarations?
Right.
Like, I don't know. I wouldn't move him just yet. If you think
Oh,
Nakobe
no.
Dean's better, sure, you can start him over him. I'm not going to lose sleep over that, but I'm just thinking of him as like somebody you could just bring in on blitzing downs, like
Yeah.
just to be a an edge rusher in a sense. But
But, yo, man, here you go. Before,
yeah.
and again, I know I keep saying this, but in other news, the Philadelphia 76ers are, quote, seriously considering relocating to New Jersey.
It's like you can't overreact to it because it's all it's all in a ploy to get one way or the other, right? Like there's going to be reports
Yeah.
that come out from Camden because they want the Sixers. There's going to be reports from the Sixers that come out because the Sixers want to be in Philly. They want to drive Philly to make a spot available to them. So it's all speculation. There's going to be a ton of rumors.
Yeah. Well, so
But
something has to be going on because my uncle
yeah,
works in a building right on the Delaware, right to the left of the Ben Franklin Bridge. And I don't know what he's been hearing or whatever, but he sent me a picture out of his office window yesterday and said the Sixers stadium would literally be right here. And it's like down the block a little bit from where he works. So there's
yeah.
got to be like some sort of whispers in that area. Here's the quote.
I saw that they sent a plan, like a
Yeah.
legitimate plan to
Yeah.
the Sixers for
So
the
it says,
location.
end quote, we have worked tirelessly for the past 5 years to build an arena in Philadelphia, and negotiations remain ongoing with city leadership regarding our proposal at Market East. The reality is we are running out of time to reach an agreement that will allow the 76ers to open our new home in time for the 2031-32 NBA season. As a result, we must take all potential options seriously, including this one. So a few things here, right? You know, when we talked about this when it got proposed before, I am very, very anti-moving to New Jersey. You are the Philadelphia 76ers. Why is that relevant? Why is that your team name? Duh. How are you
Yeah.
going to be located? And I know you don't technically have to change the name Philadelphia like the Giants and the Jets. I just hate that, right? And I don't want to be a hypocrite. However, I also absolutely hate the fact that they'd be on Market Street or wherever, and there's no real parking, and I'd have to take the subway to get to games. I might never attend a Sixers game once they move. Lastly, we're all, I'm getting worried about this. Where are they going to go? What are they going to do? I don't want change. I mean, I'm going to be in my mid-30s by the time they would play
Right.
this new stadium. Like, I
Right.
got a lot of time to kill on
Figure
my
it out.
hands before I got to worry about where they're. Well,
Yeah.
the plan will already be set in motion, but they won't actually be playing anywhere else until I'm well into my 30s. So,
Yeah.
whatever, man.
I don't know. I guess like if they could win a championship in the next 5 years, I won't care, I guess. I don't know. Like that's where I'll be. Like if we don't win with this squad that we have right now, which it definitely could happen that way, but if we don't,
That's another fantastic point by you. I'm sitting here talking about it from a fan's perspective. Joel Embiid will not be a 76er. He will not be in the league anymore by the time they play in this new arena.
And who knows where the league will even be, man.
Right.
The NBA is a funny league. It's a league that I question a lot, as far as like just how much do I even like it. I love basketball. I love basketball in general. I enjoy college basketball, but we'll see where the league is at that point. I guess that's a great point to look at. Like, we'll see where my NBA fandom is as a whole at that point. But I don't know. I've come around to it. I get the reasoning behind it, just because if you can't build it in Philly, where the hell are you going to build it? But
It's true.
I don't know. It is just the idea of being like the New York Giants, the New York Jets, located in New Jersey, but name from another city. Like, that's just gross, man. We don't want to be that,
man.
that
Anyway, guys, that's going to wrap up this Wednesday edition of the Phaithful Fanatic Show. We will be right back here with you guys Friday morning, breaking down in depth this Eagles-Packers matchup over in Brazil. Will the Eagles come away with a dub? How will they come away with a dub? Who are our players of the game? We'll get into that on the pregame show as well. So stay tuned for all things here. DSM Philadelphia. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. It is the best spot for yourself and for us to get your thoughts and comments pulled up on the screen. It's the only spot for you to be interactive here with us. So make sure to smash that subscribe button, and we'll be talking to you guys in the coming days. Go Birds, go Titans, go Sixers, go everybody. We're back to having fun, Scotty. We're back to winning. We're back to positivity here on the show. Feels good.